Welcome into part 2 of week 1 predictions. So I'm going to go through 4 more games. This is the Saturday slate. If you're curious about Thursday or Friday games, I talked about a few of those in the last video, but today, all about Saturday. So let's start with the first game of the day. It's at 11 a.m. NC State at East Carolina. Minus 11.5. NC State is the favorite by 11.5. Over under 55 points. This is interesting, right? NC State's coming into the year right around a top 10 team, a team that has very high expectations. You know, a team that outside of Clemson and maybe Miami is probably the third most likely team to win the ACC this year, and yet 11.5 points. Very, very suspicious here, I think. And I think it might be giving a little too much credit to East Carolina. I know in the past, East Carolina has pulled off a lot of upsets, a whole lot of upsets at home, but I don't think it's happening in this one. Too much Devin Leary, too much on the defensive and offensive lines for NC State, and frankly, an East Carolina team that was just okay last year. They were average on both sides of the ball. They have their quarterback returning in Holton Ahlers, so that's great. You know, they lost 5 games last year, and only 2 were by more than 7 points, which were to Cincinnati and Appalachian State. I would say NC State is more comparable to Cincinnati and Appalachian State than the other teams they lost to on their schedule. I think this is a great bet. NC State's going to win this game by probably 2 or 3 touchdowns at minimum. 11.5 points, I feel like, is not doing enough justice to the Wolfpack this year. They're going to be a very good team, especially against a team that I don't believe is that great in East Carolina, a team that'll probably go 5-7 or 6-6 this year. I expect NC State to come out and play really, really well, even on the road. Moving on to the next matchup, Cincinnati travels to Arkansas, 2:30 p.m. on ESPN. Arkansas is a 6-point favorite. Over-under is 52 points. Interesting, right? Very interesting. Cincinnati comes into this game and, they lose Desmond Ridder. They lose Sauce Gardner, an elite cornerback. They have a lot of talent still, and they have a culture, right? Luke Fickell has a culture at Cincinnati. And they're going to be good. It's just a matter of how good. And how good do they need to be this year to beat Arkansas, I think is the better question. They went undefeated last year. They made the college football playoff, but this is a totally different team. And I don't think that we should just go into every single year and say, okay, Cincinnati was good enough to compete against the best of the best teams a year ago, so that means they're going to be able to do that the next season, despite losing a veteran quarterback that won them all of those games. I just don't see it happening. As much as I like Cincinnati and that program in general, I don't think they're going into Arkansas and just waltzing out of there with a win or waltzing out of there with a 3-point loss in this game. I think Arkansas is going to be very good this year. KJ Jefferson, very good quarterback coming back, experienced quarterback. They're going to be able to run the football. They're going to be strong up front on the offensive line. And I think the area where they might get taken advantage of a little bit this year is on the defensive line. I don't think they're as good as they were a year ago after losing John Ridgeway. But unfortunately, I don't think Cincinnati is the team that's going to really expose them up front like some of the SEC teams might be able to do against Arkansas. And I don't think Cincinnati is going to be able to get enough stops against the Hogs this year, especially at Arkansas. So I got Arkansas -6. They're going to cover the 6 points. They'll win by at least a touchdown. I would frankly be shocked if they didn't win this game by 2 scores. I think they are the better team. They're a team that I think has a ceiling of getting to maybe 10 wins this year, even with their gauntlet of a schedule. So I like Arkansas a lot in this matchup against Cincinnati. The next game on the slate, Utah at Florida, 6 p.m. on ESPN. Utah is a 3-point favorite. Over-under is 51 points. I got to be honest, I'm torn on this one. And I'm torn on it for a variety of reasons, but the first one being that Utah was good last year, and Utah played the teams on their schedule. They looked good. They played Ohio State in the bowl game, played really well. Cam Rising, when he played, they were 9-3 on the season, so really good once he entered the fold after he replaced Charlie Brewer last year. But are they physical enough? And are they strong enough up front to go on the road and match what Florida is going to bring from a physicality standpoint under their new head coach, Billy Napier? And are they going to be able to stop Anthony Richardson from moving the chains? 6'4", 230-pound guys, you can't really simulate that. And Richardson is a big, big dude who I think is going to give them some problems. I would also say don't watch the Ohio State game from last year. Utah was playing running backs at cornerback. It was never going to work out for them in that game trying to stop CJ Stroud and those guys. So throw that away. Throw away the struggles Florida had last year as they gave up at the end of the season and focus on what you actually see from these teams, right? So the better quarterback is Cam Rising in my eyes. I think Anthony Richardson's good, but I think Cam Rising at this point is better. If you look at the weapons, the areas that you can exploit both teams, I think it favors Utah a little bit. Utah's got the better pass rush. Utah's got a very good run defense. Their area where you're going to exploit them is through the air, and I don't know that Florida has the wide receiver options to really, really challenge them and really stretch them downfield. I think that's going to be a problem. On the other hand, Utah, I think, is going to be able to challenge Florida a little bit up front, especially the depth of Florida. They have a veteran offensive line. They have Tavion Thomas, the elite running back, coming back. Very good quarterback, like I mentioned. Overall, I think this is going to be a very good game. And I think you're going to see two teams that are going to try to out-physical the other and really punish the other up front. And it's going to be who holds up better. And most times I would tell you that I think that would be Florida. I think most times that's what I would go with. But I think in this one, I think Utah finds a way to get it done. I think they're stout enough, especially on the offensive line, to allow enough time for Cam Rising to find some open guys downfield and run the football just enough. So I'm going to take Utah -3. Very, very difficult one, though. I think that's going to be a great game. Probably one of the closest games of the weekend. Very interested to see how Billy Napier does in his first game as the head coach for the Gators. Final game on the slate that I'm going to be projecting and picking, Notre Dame at Ohio State, 6:30 p.m. on ABC. Ohio State is a 17.5-point favorite. Over-under is 58.5 points. Man, that's a big number. 17.5, and they're playing a top 5 team. That just shows you kind of how everyone views Ohio State this year, that explosive offense. And it's almost like they didn't even lose Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter because they got all these other guys who are going to be even better than that. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Who cares? They're going to be just as good, if not better. You got CJ Stroud back, who's probably going to be a top 2 pick in the NFL draft, him and Bryce Young. And so what does that tell you? What do I take away from this? So I think this is the worst time to play Ohio State, first of all. This is not when you want to play Ohio State. The weather is going to be great. It's going to be nice and sunny. It's going to be just one of those, games where Notre Dame's still trying to find their footing. They got Marcus Freeman. They're working in new quarterback and Tyler Buckner. I just do not like this setup, first of all. Ohio State's going to be healthy as well, which is another big issue for Notre Dame in my eyes. I think new defense coordinator Jim Knowles, he might get pushed a little bit. He's in his first game at Ohio State. He led the 9th-ranked defense in the country at Oklahoma State last year, and I have a lot of faith that he's going to be very, very good at Ohio State. The other problem with this is that, Jim Knowles probably got to see a lot of film of his Oklahoma State defense playing against Notre Dame from a season ago. I think that's big as well. And so you kind of tie that all in. Marcus Freeman's first full season at Notre Dame, and this is what you get. Your first game and your first full season is at Ohio State. Can't think of much worse starts to a career than having to go to Columbus. I know he coached the bowl game and coached some other games, but first full game of a full season, that's tough. CJ Stroud versus Tyler Buckner, not good for Notre Dame. Not good at all. CJ Stroud, very, very capable quarterback, elite quarterback, elite arm talent, elite weapons. I'm sitting here and going, I can't believe I'm doing this, but Ohio State is going to cover this. Ohio State is going to blow Notre Dame out in this game. -17.5, they're going to cover that. It might be close at the end. Maybe Notre Dame's able to get a late touchdown and cut it to 17 or something, but overall, I think Ohio State's going to win this game by about 20 points. I think you'll come away thinking that Ohio State is about 20 points better than Notre Dame in week 1 of the season. Let me stress that. Notre Dame is going to be a lot better at the end of the year, and Ohio State might not be as good. And Ohio State really gets into problems when they're having to play in the cold, having to play against an elite defense in the cold in November. That's where they have their issues, and we've seen them have issues in the past in the college football playoff as well. But I think in general, this is the worst time to play them. And I think in general, Notre Dame trying to work in some new things and try to figure some things out on defense. I think, on offense, that's going to be an issue. And so I like Ohio State to win this one, minus 17.5. Take it to the bank. Ohio State is going to beat Notre Dame pretty easily in this one. So that's it for this week and the predictions. Next week, we'll have more of a full slate after we get to see week 1 of the college football season. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening, and go get your picks in. It's a great week. Week 1, always a lot of fun. So thanks for tuning in.